Hello and welcome to the Dead Beer podcast. My name's Sean and joining me as always is the one and only Dante Boff. Mr. Boff, my man, how are we?
Sean, I'm Cerveza in hand.
Hey!
How could I be bad? How could I be bad?
That's true. A little story about Sol. This isn't the story I want
Sol is the Cerveza that we're drinking right now.
This isn't the story I want to start off with. But this was like when I first started drinking beer.
Alright.
At the age of 18.
The age of 18 was when you started drinking beer?
It actually was.
Late bloomer.
Yeah. I was shopping around going, oh, I love James Bond. Maybe I'll like Heineken.
Did they drink Heinekens in James Bond?
Yeah, it's like they had a sponsorship for a few movies there.
Yeah, right.
Oh, don't love that. Oh, Carlton, you get the trivia on the cap. That's all right. And Sol was my beer of choice for a little while because I was just going to house parties and it's like, oh, sweet, I'll just bring a 6-pack of Sols with me. And then we started going out and you can't find them anywhere.
Well, it's potentially the most random beer on the face of the earth. These Sols are left over from the last time we did a 4-man wave plus Marco, which was here. And Aless made dinner and brought snacks and Sols. And when he walked in with a 6-pack of Sols, I was genuinely like, what the fuck is going on?
Are they non-alcoholic?
Because to get a 6-pack of Sols, the most likely chain of events that's led to that outcome is that someone's walked into a bottle shop and gone to the beers and been like, oh, I'll get the Sols. Which is...
But it's not a bad choice.
It's an okay beer, but I just can't really relate on any level to that thought process of being in the beer aisle, in the freezer, looking at the fridge and thinking, yeah, I'll get the Sols.
I don't think they're a freezer beer. I think they're solely a fridge beer, pardon the pun.
Yeah. It's a bit. I mean, it is a good beer, but it's.
You're not picking it.
No, I'm not picking it.
And it's definitely not value for money.
Do you reckon you could guess what my introductory
beer was
when I was in the 16, 17, 18 range?
Late bloomer. So I get 2 guesses.
Yeah.
First one's Carlton Draft.
Nah.
Second one's Stella Artois.
Nah.
Ooh.
Nah. You were closer with Carlton than you are with Stella. James Bogues.
Oh, that's disgusting. Oh, no, because of the Brunny.
Nah, not even.
But Brunny Thursday is $3 Bogues.
Because the first time I had a beer that had been poured for me was at the RACV club with my dad, who goes to the gym there and who fancies himself as a bit of a bourgeois nouveau riche. And when he, when he was finally financially comfortable enough to start spending money on stupid shit, he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a club membership.
Yeah.
And he got an RACV club membership for some
RACV as
reason.
in the car.
Yeah. But they've got a hotel in the city. You've got like a gym and amenities and like a restaurant, and you can go and play pool and smoke cigars and
So if you're a member, you can go to that gym for free.
Yeah.
So I'm an RACV member. Is there one?
No, you've got to be like an RACV club member.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
I just get a free toe within 5K.
If you're a member, you would probably get like a reduced like club membership discount.
Is there one in the north?
No, it's in the city. There's one in the city and Hillsville and Cape Shank. They got like resorts in Hillsville and Cape Shank. So my father, he's actually going away this weekend. I'm about to dox him. He's going away this weekend to the Hillsville, one. He does that probably like maybe 3 times a year, and goes and just stays and eats nice food and reads his book and hangs out and uses the pool there.
A staycation.
Staycation. The pool looks out over that beautiful, lush Hillsville forest, and he just goes and has a bit of a swim. So. But they've got a restaurant there. They've got a few restaurants, but the bistro, which is the most pumping restaurant, which this is not an advertisement for ISTV.
But if they want to sponsor us,
to offer some journalistic balance here, I'm going to tell you that the food at the bistro is so shit, and they'll still charge you $28 for it.
Right, even though you're a card-carrying member.
Yeah, you got to pay. There's no free rides with the ISTV.
It's just like Gold Class. I don't know where the fucking value is for Gold Class. You spend $50 on a ticket, and then they just bend you over a table and say, well, you're here and you're hungry because you came without eating, so can you give us $28?
Go to Pentridge Cinemas because they've got the gold class seats and you only pay like $11 or whatever.
But that's the thing. It used to be the seats. back in my day. No, it used to be the seats, but now like fucking even like Broadie Cinemas got the seats. Like,
yeah. So what are you paying $50 for?
Well, it was a gift card, and I did it on a special occasion.
Yeah.
With a lovely lady.
Yeah. Well, I'm very very happy for the lovely couple.
And we saw Babylon. Have you seen that?
It's Babylon.
It's is it Justin Hurwitz or is he the composer? The same guy who made La La Land and Whiplash, he made a new movie about jazz, and about silent films in the 50s and like the transition to speaking films and how actors across like a massive spectrum changed with the speak. What are the talkers? The talkies.
Did you enjoy it?
I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would.
Yeah, it sounds shit.
No, I was like, they just had really good actors everywhere. Like there was Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, some young, like the young main character is actually like, I wouldn't be surprised if he turns into like a really big actor one day. But just yeah.
Are you gonna watch the Barbie movie?
Yeah. Are you?
Yeah, I'm very interested in the Barbie movie.
But seeing the trailer, like I was more interested in like how the fuck's this going to be a movie. After I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, okay, that's how they're going to make it a movie.
I'm way more interested in it after the trailer.
Really?
I wasn't going to watch it because I don't care about Barbie.
Man, we are just coming at this from different angles.
But now that I've seen the kind of the existentialism and the fact that it's basically the Truman Show in the Barbie universe, I'm very interested in watching that.
Yeah, right. Well, that brings us to the intro that I wanted to say. So perfect little segue there. But we're here today during the NBA playoffs to discuss the...
why was that so formal? It sounded like we're in church.
It's part of the joke, but don't worry. To discuss the June 2 trailer. Now, Dante, have you had a chance to have a look at it yet?
No, I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Although the June chat in the GC today was making me feel like I should also rewatch it. You know what happened?
Did you like the meme I sent?
Confess something to you?
Yeah.
So you sent the meme in. It was a funny June meme, and I saw it and I thought, that's a funny June meme. And then a little while later, Marco messaged and replied with something like, Bo and I watched June last night.
Yeah.
And it was really good.
Yeah.
And I saw Marco's message and almost like my thought process was like, I'm going to reply to that and I'm going to say like, oh, I actually recently saw a really funny June meme. And then share what the meme was before connecting the dots that you had sent the meme and Marco was responding to the meme.
But sometimes your brain doesn't even work that fast, because once I've sent you a meme privately and then you send it right into the group chat and you're just like, hey, have a look at this.
Yeah, I feel like I've been a culprit for that on multiple occasions.
But it was in lockdown, I think, so like you're more than excused. Like,
or someone would send the meme into the Facebook group chat, and then I would say the same meme on Instagram without checking Facebook and be like, oh, have a look at this is hilarious.
A bit like when we went to Sydney and we're all talking, and then like you and I were going somewhere and I was driving, I was like, oh, can you chuck that in the group? And then you go into the group with like everyone who's in Sydney, and then you go on Instagram, like, what the fuck are you doing? And you're like, isn't this chat on Instagram? I don't know if this is good radio anymore, but you're on Instagram and everyone else is on Facebook. Anyway, the NBA playoffs.
No, what about the June intro? You can't.
Oh, well, you haven't seen it.
The trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but pretend I have.
Okay, so what do you think?
The Harkonnen, the Spice Trade.
I was looking at your bookshelf. Do you have it? Have you read it?
I never read it.
Watching the trailer made me want to read it. Because after the first movie, because I've never really read sci-fi before.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a pretty good fucking starting place. So I sort of want to give it a go, especially because there's 6 movies. There's 6 books.
Is there?
Yeah. So there is a trilogy that they recognise as the trilogy, and then he just kept going. And I think he got like a friend to help co-author it. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
His name like Frank Herbert. But yeah, this housemate of the program, Llewellyn, said that he watched some interview where the director was like, hey, if you thought the first one didn't have enough action, this one's got too much action. You're going to think it's like a blockbuster movie where it's like 20 minutes.
Isn't it a blockbuster movie?
Yeah, but like it's a Dwayne The Rock Johnson style type beat thing.
Florence Pugh is in the second one.
She's in everything now,
That's what I was about to say. Fucking hell.
I don't know where she finds the time.
The 2 takes that I resonate with from celebrity Instagram that I've seen recently is Florence Pugh is just literally in everything. That's not even a take I've seen. I've just seen her everywhere and been like, what the actual fuck? And then the other one is some shit going on with Glenn Powell, who's Sydney Sweeney's co-star in some movie. And I saw a man on Instagram that was saying they just invent famous people. They just invent new famous people and expect us to play along and know who they are. Because who the fuck is Glenn Powell? And he's just getting to the treatment that Kim Kardashian gets, where you just say something about their private life. Or Taylor Swift and Joe Alwyn, her boyfriend of 6 years.
Joe recently. Who?
You don't want to know. Her boyfriend of 6 years recently broke up, and it's like,
you know what? I actually knew that.
You can just put that on social media and be like, Taylor Swift and Joe Alwyn break up, because Taylor Swift is really famous. This guy, Glenn Powell, who the fuck is that? Just getting the Taylor Swift treatment, just his name popping up that him and his partner broke up, or him and his co-star in the new movie are getting along really well. Who the fuck are these people? That would just be like if new basketball players were just populating, and they'll be like fucking Matthew Johnson, really good for the Sixers, and you're like, oh, who's that? Is he a two-way player? I was like, nah, he's on a $13 million contract. He's averaging 17 a game. Didn't you know?
Yeah, and I think the time for you to feel that is the Met Gala, where it's just like, oh, here's Anne Hathaway, cool. Anyway, here's Glenn Powell.
Christopher Walken is in the new Dune. Alongside Stellan Skarsgård. They're killing it on the old good actors front.
So is Elvis, Austin Butler.
Yeah.
But yeah, he got in. It was like he was method acting too much again. So now he's just been a weird fella. Whatever.
Do you know what streaming platform Dune's on? It's on Disney. It feels like Disney.
Feel free to send us a message if you listen to this episode if you know where it is. It's giving Disney, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Stan.
Watch Netflix.
Fuck, completely incorrect.
I might actually fuck around and watch Dune tonight.
Look, I tried the other day, right?
You didn't enjoy it?
No, it was Sunday at 10 o'clock, and I was just like...
Is there... Because I watched it in the cinemas, and the whole thing was it was too loud, you couldn't hear what anyone was saying. Is that fixed on the small screen?
No, because I started watching it at 10 o'clock on Sunday after a bit of a party. Everyone had gone to bed, and I was like, yeah, I'll watch a movie? And then there's like, and then I'm like, hold on, this goes on for a long time. Then I went to bed. So I watched 10 minutes. So I couldn't tell you. But I guess I should watch again. You've got until November. That's when the next... Are you saying Dune or June?
I'm trying not to lean too heavily into the American dirt or the Australian jet and say Dune.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dunedin.
I don't know, because it's very American to go Dune.
Yeah.
And it's a double O.
Well,
but the J is the J is in place of the D. It doesn't feel good.
Is incorrect. Yeah, that's the exact crisis I'm having. So, if you're listening to this episode, let's all start referring to it as D2.
Yeah, I'm down for D2.
Cool. Should we move on to the NBA playoffs?
Yeah, should we fucking talk ball?
So, what did we say we'll kick off with? Lakers, Golden State?
Lakers, Golden State.
Can you just pop up a new tab and type in Real GM NBA, and you'll find the numbers for the first game between the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers, and it was big enough for multiple people to message me being like, man, this is going to be a fucking spectacle, and this is just
what do you mean the numbers, the TV numbers?
Yeah, the TV numbers. If you just go down a little bit, they might not be on. They might not. Yeah, there you go. So
7.36.
Average 7.36. I think the height was about 10 million people watching this game at one time, and then Lucas can do the math there on what the lowest would be, but that's a lot of fucking people. They might have
4.
Thanks.
But that assumes that the high and the low were represented for an equal amount of time, bringing us to roughly 7, which they wouldn't have been represented for a roughly equal amount of time. So
it's a fucking pretty cool series. You've got the Golden State Warriors at the end of the dynasty. You've got LeBron James at the end of
it. What do you mean end of the dynasty? What about this...
Jonathan Kuminga kid, huh?
This 2 windows, huh?
At the end of one dynasty, Alessio's not going to like that I said that, and you made me say it. Let the record show. The Warriors will be great forever. And LeBron James obviously being at the end of LeBron James's career. The Los Angeles Lakers just cobbling together a team 30 games ago, just hoping that this is going to be the one that pushes LeBron over the edge. Golden State struggling to get past a young upstart Sacramento Kings team, and then heading into a series that's just a clash of the Titans. And it is quite cute to see LeBron and Steph are at the scorers table checking in together at the exact same time, and they're doing that thing where they laugh, and everyone's all happy, and we love playing against each other, even though it's pretty clear that they don't like playing against each other when it's in the finals, and they get quite mad at each other. But it's just so fucking cool. This is cool. It's very cool. I didn't really have time to comprehend it after the first round, because I was just very happy at the 50 burger from Steph, which we'll talk about later. But what are your thoughts with this series? Where do you want to start?
Well, I don't think that it's fair to look at and I know you're not, because I know you're an eternal positivist when it comes to the Warriors. But this isn't like a Suns from last season situation where the Suns struggled to get past a young upstart Pelicans team and then got waxed in the second round.
Yeah.
Sacramento were actually just good. And they were really good, and they blew you out in Game 6 on the road. That's takes metal and toughness and execution. So the Kings are a good team, and I think that Golden State coming out of that in 7 is actually just beneficial, because they have been tested more than they've ever been tested before outside the finals. That was the kind of the toughest series that they've had. Maybe there was a Memphis series in 2016.
The play-in. 2016, sorry. Yeah.
Long, there was, when they were kind of first getting off the ground. They went long against Memphis in the first round.
They reference that a lot whenever they say, we're down in some hole. They say, we went out for fried chicken after Game 3 when we were down 2-1 and just became best friends and did it. But yeah, you're right. We were actually tested.
You usually just glide through as far as you go. And this time you've been punched in the mouth, but you came out the other side.
But we were tired in Game 1.
Yeah, you were tired, for sure. And the problem that you're running into, which time will tell how much of a problem this continues to be, but there's not really a solve for Anthony Davis when Anthony Davis is on. That's just one of the kind of fundamental problems that any team playing the Lakers faces, which is if Anthony Davis is hitting some mid-ranges but not settling, and then just getting to the rim and being a beast on the glass, there's essentially no one in the league, and not even a front court of Green and Looney, who can really stop that. And that was kind of the story in Game 1. He dominated on the glass, he dominated as a scorer, and that's hard to stop.
Yeah, our kryptonite is skilled big men who are just gonna jump higher than Kevon Looney, and then every now and again, if he's put them in the post, Draymond Green's not going to stop 100% of people, right? And
Draymond Green is an awesome post defender, but he's just he's a generous 6'8".
But even just the nature of being in the post, you're not going to win every matchup, and AD is...
for sure.
Yeah.
And the fact that if AD's getting to the low block, he's already close enough to the rim to score efficiently anyway. Yeah. So you can play excellent defense in the post, but you still might give up 65% of those shots.
In the 2015 NBA playoffs, the first round where we played the New Orleans Pelicans, I think we won that in 4 or 5, but Anthony Davis just absolutely killed us for that whole entire series for exactly those reasons. We had Festus Ezeli and stuff. We had fine just verticality defenders, but we just don't have the talent to stop really, really, really talented bigs, and that's something we give up for having Draymond on the floor, because now we can stop every small person and every big wing in the whole entire league. That's the trade-off we make. And it just sucks that we've come into this situation now where it's okay, we're versing our absolute kryptonite. They've obviously got LeBron there. They've obviously got Austin Reeves and Jared Vanderbilt, just very good role players. And it's just such a flip from the last series that we were playing, where it's the Kings actually had quite good perimeter defenders, and they had a scheme that was just all about running us off the three-point line. And sometimes that funneled into the big men like Trey Lyles and Alex Len and Domantas Sabonis. And we saw Steph Curry's shot chart. It was most of his shots were inside the three-point line. And now the Lakers are the Lakers are camping out in the paint, and every single time like we're calling for a screen or we're getting some off-ball actions, like the Lakers are very happy to sag on the other side of that screen and just say like, you can just keep taking those threes. We're going to lightly contest them, which is what they did. And we made like, I think it was like 55% of our threes or some just astronomical number, which kind of shit that we lost. But Steph had 2 makes inside the paint. I think that's right. You've got it up there.
4.
Because as soon as you go in there, like they've got Anthony Davis, but then they've got Jared Vanderbilt, they've got LeBron, who's like a good rim protector in his own right.
LeBron is, his defense is up and down, but once you get inside, he's still a big human.
Yeah. So this is just a complete opposite of what we had to deal with, where it was like you've got the Davion Mitchells and like, you know, Malik Monk had a good game or two, and then like Kevin Huerter's 6'8". Did you know that?
Did you really?
Yeah. Or 6'7". They've just got good perimeter defenders that were all about just pushing us inside. Now we've got these guys who are sort of pushing us outside, and then when Jared Vanderbilt's not on Stephen Curry, like Steph's just going to it's fucking Dennis Schroeder. Like he's going to get everything that he wants, but he's not getting stuff inside the paint. He's getting blocked on those little high floaters that have gone in recently, and it's just like, it's just such a new challenge to try and beat, because we've climbed over the hill against the Sacramento Kings, who, as you say, are a good team. I love how I'm quoting you with that. They're a good team, but it's just a complete polar opposite battle here with the Golden State Warriors. And every single time we've played Anthony Davis, we've really struggled to contain him. And you asked before, like, you know, who's going to stop Anthony Davis when he's on? Like, I believe in the Warriors across the 7-game series to eventually figure out their opponent and beat him. I'm not Steve Kerr 2.0. I don't know how that's going to work right. I've seen Kevon Looney just stick his hands up and then Anthony Davis go 7 of 8 in the first quarter. I don't know how we fucking stop that. Like, I'm really interested to see what we actually think of trying to do. But the only thing other than us trying to be better that can stop Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis himself. Like, he's going to fall on an ankle, he's going to fall on a shoulder, and if he misses a game or two...
He doesn't even have to miss a game. He just has it in him to go 4-13.
Well, I'm not thinking injuries, but I don't think he's going to go 4-13 in this series.
He's got to be the most inconsistent superstar of the guys that you can say that's a superstar.
Maybe second worst to Cat.
Cat's not a superstar.
Okay,
Cat's a star.
Okay,
Anthony Davis is a superstar.
Okay,
when you're walking around with like 4+ All NBA selections, you're a superstar.
Okay,
you know, like Anthony Davis is like a legit All NBA Defensive Player of the Year type of guy. Cat is not that. Yep. You are not that guy. But he has it in his locker just to have a dud. He falls in love with the mid range, which is a real problem because he can just get whatever he wants at the rim, and it's a real issue, his shot selection sometimes, and he doesn't have the mentality of like, all right, I've missed 3 mid-range jumpers in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and get to the rim. His mentality is like, all right, I've missed 3 mid-range jumpers. If I can hit the next 2, then they'll be defending me fine. And he chases his losses and he just gets stuck in these ruts. So he's his own worst enemy in terms of him, you know, in terms of his physical health, which obviously, you know, as you're alluding to, is always something that you're worried about. But also his shot selection sometimes really just lets his team down. And I don't think it's a given that we're going to see Anthony Davis putting up 30 points a game. You know, on every in every game. I don't think that's a given at all.
Let's just agree to disagree. Like, I think he will. Like, he seems really locked in where it's like, it is just baby hooks and dunks. Like, he knows that he can just shoot over Kevon Looney. I would love it if he has an inconsistent 4-13. Like that, we win that game 100% of the time if he does that. And I just hope that Darvin Ham and the Lakers just have enough fucking, you know, enough of a sway in the locker room to say, Anthony Davis, don't just shoot contested mid-ranges over Kevon Looney. You're not going to make him.
It is.
I think it's so obvious the blueprint to win.
It is, but it's also just like guys like what they like.
Yeah.
And if you've got the kind of mid-range look and you're like, oh, this is fucking... You're not thinking like, oh, coach told me not to shoot the mid-range. You're thinking like, Looney's left too much space here. I can rise up and get whatever I want here.
Yeah.
Which is it's a problem because he's the king of catching the ball, like posting in the mid-range, the mid to high post, pivoting, turning, facing, jab step, jump shot. No dribble, the ball doesn't touch the ground. That's it. And then it's just missed. So I'm not, in my conception of this series, just penciling in like dominant AD. But I will say that there's not an obvious easy solve. He matches up really badly for you. He is the kryptonite, as you say. Yeah. And if he can sustain it, like that's a huge problem because he could easily be the best player in this series.
Yeah. And another thing that I really liked is just Jared Vanderbilt guarding Steph from just the start of the game. And Steve Kerr realised early on that he's not going to be able to do the off-ball stuff because Vando's just too long, and he's very fast for how long he is. So he knows he's not going to be able to get away with that. So he's going to he just gave Steph the ball a lot and said, Steph, you're going to have to operate with the ball in your hands, just like he did in Game 7. And Darvin Ham just like Steph Curry still Steph Curry, so he went, okay, well we're not containing him that much, and he really needed offense down the end of the game, so he just sat Vando for like the final 6 minutes. Maybe he came in for like some defensive possessions, but he sat Vando for most of the game and went with D'Lo for offense, and then settled for Dennis Schroeder and Austin Reeves. Which
Schroeder played well. But, like, you know, D'Lo just, I don't think he got over a single screen. Like, Clay got heaps of open looks early in the game, and he made a couple, and then he tailed off a little bit. For Jordan Poole to uncork, like, a very good game for the first time in 7 games, that's so promising for the Warriors. Like, for him, I think he was, like, 5 or 7 from 3. Obviously missed a crucial one there.
Yeah. But, yeah, I'm just interested to see where Darvin Ham goes with that balance, because we went on like a nearly 10-0 run to tie this game if Jordan Poole had hit that shot down the end of the game, and that was with the offensive lineup in for the Lakers, who just needed points. So I wonder where Darvin Ham's going to go, where it's like we may as well just leave Vando out there because eventually he's going to hit a 3, and that's going to be so awesome for the Lakers.
The spacing problems are less of an issue if Davis is playing how he is as well on offense. Like, it doesn't matter that Vando can't shoot and that Vando is just going to try and like hover. He's either going to screen or hover in the dunker spot. Like, if AD is the tallest player on the court and he's getting the ball inside 10 feet, like he can mitigate some of those spacing issues that having Vando out there presents. And obviously you've spoken to his defensive versatility and worth there.
Yeah, he's so hot. What do you think about Jordan Poole's shot down the end of the game? 10 seconds to go.
Yeah, it's a bad shot.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Like, maybe he should have taken a dribble in, or just like...
Yeah, I mean, there's literally a million other things you could have done.
There's 10 seconds on the clock.
You had 10 seconds, there's no rush, so you could have got a better look than a 30-foot 3, which is, for a good shooter, 30% proposition. For better shooters than Poole, that's a 30% shot.
Yeah.
Like, for Steph and Lillard, that's a 30% shot.
Yeah.
Take a dribble in, bro.
Yeah.
You want the moment. Take 2 dribbles and get to the rim, or dribble and step into the rhythm 3, or let Steph get around the screen that was being set for him and get the ball back, and then relocate to the corner and you might get the ball back.
Yeah.
I think it's a bad shot. That being said, like, it's one moment in an entire game, and yes, you have to execute in those moments when the situation is as high leverage as that, but it doesn't necessarily, like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
they lost the game. It doesn't mean anything other than that. Like, there's nothing really to be inferred about Poole or about the Warriors' offense or whatever. From that. You sound like you're pro Poole taking that shot with that 10 seconds left.
I'm on the fence because, like, that makes Poole what he is, and last series we didn't want Poole to be who he was because he was a bad basketball player. Yeah. But in this series, when he's 5 or 7 or 5 of 8 or whatever it was,
you have to empower your guys to do that. And if your strength is shooting and scoring, you have to be empowered to shoot and score.
And Steve Kerr's done that, but it's just like, you get these Poole moments where it just looks so much like, you know, the Warriors love to, like, Steph Curry gets double, swing back. And Poole just seems to be the ball stopper every single time. And not ball stopper to dribble, which would be horrible and he wouldn't be playing the game. Ball stopper to, like, just get the shot up.
Yeah.
And, I mean, all the Warriors came out and said, we're happy with that shot. I'm on the fence. Like, maybe if this goes down to a Game 7 and we lose, I'll be extra mad about Game 1. But I'm not.
have those moments in the playoffs, and they're like not all gonna work. And in the macro, the difference between a 30% shot and a 40% shot, it's not huge.
Yeah.
You know, it's not huge. He's a young player who's really struggled. He obviously has like a mentality.
Yeah.
We know that from his last 3 seasons. The mentality is like, I'm a scorer, I'm going to get mine. Most of the time, you're harnessing that for the benefit of the team.
Yeah.
And if this is one of those things that you just have to cop and say, oh, well, we don't want him to hesitate, we want him to be taking that shot, if that's what this means, then I guess you shrug your shoulders and say, okay. It doesn't change the fact that in a vacuum, 10 seconds left, that's a bad shot. Because you could have got that shot with 4 seconds left.
Yeah.
You know?
I saw a tweet that remember when he was falling over in the Kings series?
Yeah.
So and then someone said it looks like Steve Kerr when he subs him in, he spins him around 3 times and then tells him to go. Before we move on, what's your prediction for this series?
I think the Warriors are gonna win because I have faith in the adjustments.
In how many games?
6 or 7.
I got Warriors in 5.
Yeah, well, you said that in the group chat before the start of this game, and you're standing your ground. I see.
Yeah.
Is that a standing your ground call, or you think that the Warriors are going to win 4 games in a row?
We are playing Jordan Poole down the stretch to play that new death lineup where you've got Wiggins at the 4 and Poole in there, and they couldn't score. The Lakers couldn't score the basketball with Poole out there for like the last 5, 6, 7 minutes. That's such a good sign, and we shot well.
I'm pleased for your optimism.
What's the next series you want to talk about?
Let's talk about Boston, Philly. Boston blew Philly out today, 34 points, to tie the series at 1-1 after they narrowly lost Game 1. And I have really enjoyed watching the Sixers this postseason. But I think there's... And I'll just before I go on, I'll say it's 1-1. Philly's won a game on the road, so Philly's got seized home court. They've done their job. They've done what they need to do.
Yeah, but somehow it still looks bad.
It still feels really bad because you win narrowly on a great James Harden performance, and then the next game you lose by 34, and James Harden is a -21 shooting 2 for 14.
Yeah.
Pinch me, where have I seen that before? All of a sudden, we're kind of like back to where we've always been with the Sixers, where you don't know what you're getting from James Harden, because not only has his quality and style of play changed so drastically since he's been a Sixer, but he also does have a statistical history of performing far worse in the playoffs.
I was surprised to see that the 45 points he scored in Game 1 was a career playoff high.
Because
surprised.
There's stinkers.
I get it, but it's like, damn. Like,
yeah, it is. I had a similar thought. So you're kind of like, okay, well, we can't really rely on James Harden. Like, we don't really know what we're getting. Yeah, he had 45. Awesome. But he's just followed that up with an absolute dud. And then Embiid as well. Embiid coming back from the knee injury. He only played 27 minutes today because they were down. And it was like, well, we're not going to fucking make this guy play 38 when we're already down 20. So he had 15 points, 5 blocks. So he's kind of like looking the goods on the defensive end. But he was really good defensively against the Nets. It was the offensive end where he was not really performing that well. And part of that was the fact that the Nets were just making him get the ball so far from the rim and then putting everyone in between him and sending doubles, and his job in the offense when that's the defensive scheme is just to get off the ball early, and if you get the ball back, you get the ball back, but if not, it's a 4-on-3 and your team has the advantage, and he did that. But all of a sudden, we're 2 games into the second round, where you can't confidently say that you can rely on Harden to give you like all-star level play. Yeah. And we're 2 games in, and Embiid is yet to have a dominant playoff game. And he has not historically been a dominant playoff player. The Sixers' recent playoff history is littered with disappointment.
He's 1-9 against the Boston Celtics.
He's 1-9 against the Boston Celtics. In the playoffs or in general?
Playoffs.
Well, in the playoffs. The Sixers have been really disappointing, and it's not all because of Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons. It's because Embiid's either bad or hurt every other year, and this season he's been hurt and hasn't gotten off the ground in terms of his performance. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you're like, we're here. And I guess what I want to ask you is like, is this the worst 1-1 as the road team can possibly feel?
Yeah, 100%. Because we know that the Celtics are they play so well against the 76ers. And we know that Harden loves a bit of rest, and he loves playing well early in the series, and then just just trailing off as it just gets too much for him. And the whistles dry up, and he does a lot. He spends a lot of his time at the free throw line. Danny LaRue pointed out that after they got that amazing Harden game in Game 1, and they were like, well, maybe just keep Embiid out for Game 2 and then rest Harden and say he's just got thigh cramps, and then just say, well, we're happy going back 1-on-1. That's all we need to do. We may as well give Harden an extra day's rest. And obviously they're not going to do that, but it's that wouldn't have been a bad idea because
it's kind of crazy as well that we should mention Jason Tatum today played 19 minutes. He shot 1 of 7 and had 7 points. Do you know what his plus minus was in those 19 minutes?
Plus 22.
Plus 24.
Damn. It's just that there's just every other offense in the playoffs just has so many different looks and options, and everyone's these are fully formed offenses. And when D'Anthony Melton doesn't go 5 or 6 in the first half of game 1, as soon as that part drives up, it's PJ Tucker's going to score 0 points on 0 shot attempts. Tobias Harris isn't a very good basketball player.
Whatever you get from him is just found money. Maxey has been really good this whole playoffs and has been their best player, but the Sixers can't win this
You're not winning a title
if that's the case.
Yeah, you're not winning a series.
They can't even win this series if that's the case.
Especially because Maxey is just going to go against Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown.
Well, and that was the thing. And another thing that kind of has stuck out to me from the dichotomy between these two games was in Game 1, the guards for Boston were much more inconsistent. Marcus Smart had 12 points on 4 of 7, and Malcolm Brogdon had 20 points. But Derek White gave you essentially nothing. Mm-hmm. Grant Williams gave you nothing. That's kind of not what you need from those specific spots playing around your 2 stars. And then today, another fucking vintage Brogdon game who we were talking in the offseason, the reason why no one gave up much at all is because they're so scared of him, and then
so scared of his injuries.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Scared of his injuries. Look at him now. He's being the third best player on the court in a playoff game. But today you got 15 from White, 15 from Smart, and 23 from Brogdon. So what's Philly gonna do if James Harden and Maxey aren't combining for 60 and Embiid's not going for 30? Yeah, there's not a solve there. Yeah, unless you luck into a big Tobias Harris game or one of your role players goes 5 of 7 from 3. The fix isn't really there. You know?
That's why when we were talking off air, that's why I just don't like watching the Philadelphia 76ers. It's just not fun. I love teams that just have heaps of options and you don't know who's going to pop off and you don't know where they're going to attack you from, and it's guys will just pass and find an opening out. Everyone's capable, but the Sixers are just so they just, you know what they're going to do. You know, but what
that's part of the reason why it's been so compelling watching Embiid this year, because he's not playing in some revolutionary system or some system that's even really designed to maximize his talents. He could be doing other stuff with a different coach than Doc Rivers, but it's just that he's he might go for 59 anyway. Yeah. He might just say, I'm going to hit 12 mid-range jumpers, I'm going to shoot 20 free throws, and I'm going to dunk everything else. Yeah. And there's nothing that you can do to stop it. Yeah. And then watching that actually happen. But we're here at 1-1, going back to Philly. I wouldn't be surprised if Boston won both games. I would not be surprised at all if this was done in 5. And Boston wins out from here. But we're here now where Embiid has just won the MVP. And I feel like we could be on the verge of the exact same narrative emerging about the 2 previous MVP winners, which was Giannis and then Jokic won it when they had no tangible, tangible air quotes for their basketball commentariat, which, only deals in amazing finals wins or losses.
Yeah.
They both won MVPs without having had that, with having a bit of a reputation as like not delivering in the playoffs. Yeah. And Embiid has not delivered in the playoffs ever. And now this is where we are. Now he's got an award, yeah. Are we about to like turn the dialogue into that, you know, how it was after Giannis won his second MVP, where
I hope so.
I know you have a horse in the race. But the dialogue was vicious when Giannis, you know, when the Bucks went out early after Giannis won his second MVP. They were like, we can't give it to this guy. He can't get it done when it matters. And Embiid is about to kind of approach this threshold. If he can't rally this team on the back of a knee injury and with an inconsistent co-star.
Yeah, I can. Well, let's talk about the MVP then. Like, Joel Embiid obviously won the 2022-23 NBA MVP, beating out Giannis and Jokic. And
did you know that he tweeted about it in 2014?
Yes.
Yeah, I did, because it was all over social media.
Did you see my reply?
No.
Because he's like, oh, this will be me, and it was like him tweeting his MVP ballot.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know,
it was him, Kobe, LeBron, Kobe, and then Chris Bosh.
Yeah, and then I said, oh man, I also had Chris Bosh fourth on my ballot. Melo was 7th. CP3 was 6th. Pretty crazy that like there's only 2 guys on that list who are still there, like CP and LeBron. Like, Melo's not even in it. Melo's a celebrity at the fucking Garden for playoff games now. Yeah. Like, that's how far you've fallen. And anyone can be a celebrity now. What about your guy? Gary Powell.
Glenn. It's
Gary Llewellyn's dad.
It's just insane. It's just insane.
Yeah, so the MVP, I mean, we both said Jokic, just because we value what he does more, but like it's just so crazy, like looking at what Jokic is doing against the Suns, which we'll talk about in a minute, and then seeing Joel Embiid, like, yeah, he's playing hero ball, and yeah, there was that article early in the season where it's like, man, yeah, he sees a double coming, and some people might pass out of the double, but he sees his double and goes, like, yeah, this is going to sound so cringe, but Kobe, like
that. Well, that was what the article said. That was what the discourse was.
I know I'm quoting it, but it still feels cringe.
He's watching, but
and he wants to shoot it over 2 guys instead of just passing it for an open guy. And it just, like, you and I didn't like, you know, the way Kobe played basketball because we didn't think it was, like, the greatest way to play basketball. Some people do, and that's just a difference of opinion. But, like, we're seeing in the playoffs, when everything just gets a lot tighter, you can be rougher, shots don't go in as much as they usually do. And Embiid's just never delivered in the playoffs.
He was really good for stretches of that series against the Raptors, when the Raptors went on to win and Kawhi hit the 4-bounce game winner. He was really good in that series, but there's never been like 5 to 7 consecutive games where he was the best player on the court, and even if your team loses, it's because there was just that, you know, there was elite level play from their stars, or they had too much depth, or whatever. Like, there's never been just that consistent run where you can question the Sixers if they lose, but you can't question Embiid. He just has not really delivered that. And we did our early awards predictions. We wanted to plant our flags, and we both picked Jokic. I mean, this team won 54 games, and Embiid averaged 33.
Yeah, big number.
33
in a season where Shea averaged 31.
I know, but
I know it's still a big number.
When we talk about who's ever averaged that much, we're getting into the company of the greatest scorers to ever play.
Yeah.
It's like Wilt, Kobe, MJ, Iverson, Bradley Beal. You know, like that's kind of rarefied air. Like, he's a legitimate MVP. This season has been as good as many of the previous MVP seasons. I can't really quibble with it now that it's here.
It's definitely not. It's not like he's got a non-case. Like, no, I'm not saying that. But,
no, for sure. Well, he doesn't not only have a non-case. He's got a very, 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 very good case.
Also, narrative, just like, you know, coming from Cameroon, being scouted by Luke Rashad and Baramute's basketball camp.
See, this is why I made comments the other day. This is why I made forceful comments.
But Jokic
has the same narrative. He fucking comes from Sombor. He's this nonchalant guy. He gets it.
Yeah. I'm not comparing stories.
He doesn't look like an MVP, but he's so good. Like, there's narrative. There is narrative.
I mean, everyone has a narrative.
I would push back on the sentiment that, like, Embiid has got it because of some, like, better harnessing of, like, media narrative than Jokic, because Jokic just, like, didn't care about it. Like, I think Embiid is, like, a completely legitimate MVP and should be celebrated for it. But the context is we're in the second round of the playoffs. That doesn't fucking matter. And I can't remember looking at a road team that had won a game on the road in the first 2 games and was looking at 2 consecutive home games, and I'm feeling worse about them.
All right, so let's talk about the other MVP, Nikola Jokic, going against the Phoenix Suns. The Denver Nuggets are up 2-0 in the series.
2-0.
In Game 1, the Phoenix Suns shot like 1 million less threes than the Denver Nuggets, but they shot better from everywhere on the court.
Shot like 56% and lost by
20-something.
Yeah.
And then there was obviously the article by John Hollinger and many others saying that the Phoenix Suns have a math problem. And then you open Game 3 with everyone just jacking shots. Like, everyone's putting up the shots, and Booker and KD are sort of looking around like, oh, we are actually the only 3-point shooters out here. We should also be the ones jacking up shots. And Chris Paul has some muscle injury, and he's out for at least the next 2 games.
Groin, I think it is.
And I think it's like a reevaluated, not even just he's back for Game 5.
Yeah, he's
turns out
until Game 5.
So your point guard rotation is Cam Payne and Damian Lee. But how do you feel as a Phoenix Suns fan, where you played an excellent game in Game 1 and the Denver Nuggets like played good D, but you shot better than them. Booker was just on fire, and he has continued to be on fire, and KD is just KD. He's going to give you 32 points wherever he goes.
Well, KD is an interesting one, because I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
With KD in the playoffs, watching this team, even when we're playing well, you can just tell we haven't played together.
Yeah. There's
nothing integrated for KD. There's literally nothing. Like, KD scores his points as an ISO scorer or a spot up 3-point shooter, but he's not involved in any of the actions that could and should be like a playoff staple for us.
Yeah.
Which is a problem, because when we're in these games where Game 2 was a 10-point loss, but it was neck and neck until the last couple of minutes. Like, fully realized KD inside like an ingenuitive offensive system, which is what Phoenix has, designed to get your best players the shots that they're best at. That's what our system is. Fully realized KD inside that system is unstoppable, but he hasn't really been unstoppable.
Because of the injury, he's played 7 games before the season started, and then...
Well, I mean, he's also playing like 40 minutes a night, every night, because we don't have anyone behind him, because we're relying on Josh Okogie and Torrey Craig to come in and give us our like wing minutes, which pose obvious problems. Yeah,
I'm a little bit shocked at how great Denver are doing, because, like I said in the first round, where I was like, okay, Murray's playing well, and even like Murray had a horrible game last game, but Jokic just willed them to a win. But like, Murray's playing well, and the Jokic-Murray 2-man game, like, Jokic just clears everyone out. He sits there with the ball. He goes, "Where's the worst defender? Oh, it's on KCP. Come on over here, set a screen. All right, come back over here. Let's put Campaign into the blender." And it's just like a 10-point lead was just weak side pick and rolls with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, and it's still unstoppable against a better team. But I'm surprised at how well they are doing. Like, the fact that they didn't shoot as well as their opponent in Game 1, but they still absolutely like blew you out of the water. And then a bit of a much more physical game. You guys are definitely putting up more 3-pointers, like, in a very intentional way.
Yeah.
And they still came away with the win. And it's like, the playoffs don't start till the road team wins a game, but it's looking pretty good.
It's a lot harder to win 4 out of 5 than it is to win 4 out of 7.
Yeah. Golden State's going to find that.
Few teams might be finding that. The other thing that is kind of filling me with dread is DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
because we talked last week, before the start of the series, that Ayton has historically played really, really well against Jokic and the Nuggets.
It's just not the case now.
He sucks, man. Yeah. He in ways that are like so you shouldn't be talking about a player's effort in the second round of a playoff series
for a max player,
but also on a team where this team could go to the finals. There's a conference finals spot on the line, and he's just walking and he's not contesting.
Yeah.
Let alone the fact that he's in the wrong place defensively, which we talked about last week had been a major problem for us against the Clippers. Like, not only the fact that he's not like committing, but that he finds himself in no man's land where he can't contest the shot or grab the rebound. The same thing has kind of happened again, and Jokic went for 39 in game 2, like literally ate him up.
Yeah.
And we can't win when we're playing small most of the time with him as our 5.
Yeah.
And him not just be like a glass-eating monster, rim runner, set solid screens, block some shots. Like he's really given us nothing. And it's not that's not something. That's not a context from within we can emerge with victorious.
Yeah, and I was watching game 2 at lunchtime, and then my colleague turned around and was like, "Oh, basketball." He doesn't watch basketball, and he was like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Because he could hear me going, "Oh, what the hell?" Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Oh, fucking Phoenix just put in this guy Bismack Biyombo." They're like, "Oh, well, what's his story?" I'm like, "Oh, he's just like very bad at basketball, but the coach likes him for some reason." And he's like, "Oh man." I'm like, "Yeah," and this really good center is just every single time he sees him licks his lips, and every single time any of the other 4 dudes on the court see him, they're going right at him. And he's like, "Oh man, that sucks." I'm like, "Yeah, but he did donate his whole entire salary to a hospital back in Africa, so like he's not all bad." But when it comes to basketball, and yeah, so this game 2 was also like quite chippy and quite guys going back and forth. And these two teams have had a history of sort of getting into each other's Guernseys, and yeah, so KCP. I think he thought he'd been fouled a few times, and it might have just been like a playoff foul. KCP, when he's angry, just grabs the ball for a jump shot. Like, he's just sitting there waiting. He knows that he's going to get a wide open shot, and you can just tell he's angry from the last couple of plays down. And he just like jumps as high as he possibly can. Like, he jumps so much higher when he's angry, and he just jumps like way too high, and then just throws this perfect 3 that just splashes, and he's like putting up signs, and just like it looks so fucking cool. But it's just makes you want to go out and just jump to your apex on a jump shot. But
never works well for me.
Never works well for me either. But Michael Malone's playing Bruce Brown down the end of this game, like the last 6 minutes, which is like pretty fucking cool that you can just sit Michael Porter Jr. and still win the game. But Bruce Brown was getting into Devin Booker's head, and then I'm sure you saw the video that I sent in the group chat where Bruce Brown set a screen, Devin Booker, and Devin Booker's just like lazily grabbed his jersey and then pulled him, and they've gone into each other's faces and just walked away.
Booker spent too much time around Chris Paul.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't even need to say it anymore.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Which sucks because Booker's such a fucking cool player, but just when he does shit like that.
Yeah. I mean, I've made peace with my relationship with Devin Booker, which is that take him or leave him, but he's my absolute favourite player to watch play basketball.
Yeah, because
he's so just good. So fucking good.
Yeah.
But his performance is being wasted right now, and CP is out. Campaign, who's really struggled since he's come back from injury in the playoffs, is going to be our starting point guard, or it's going to be Booker on the ball heaps more, which I think is actually a workable solution. If you go so Booker and wings, you just have to have KD involved in the offense. You can't go Booker and wings when KD is like a spot up or an ISO player. Yeah. KD has to be. You have to be doing a Booker KD pick and roll. You have to be running plays for KD to get the ball in space, using the attention that Booker gets when he has the ball in his hand. Like, there just has to be a bit more integration, because currently there's none.
It just sucks that Chris Paul went down, because like he was doing his playoff thing where he's getting back into that snake dribble, and whenever there's a midi, he's making it, and he's just being playoff Chris Paul again. And the options behind him are so bad.
Yeah.
So, what's your final prediction for this series?
The Nuggets are going to win from here.
In how many games?
Let's go and let's let's go and say 5.
Yeah, I got Nuggets in 4. It's
giving Schweep.
Yeah. You got, yeah. It's,
well, I mean, I would obviously be very disappointed. Should we hit on the Knicks and the Heat?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. This has been a fun series.
Yeah.
It's giving. I mean, we talked off air before that I really enjoyed watching the Cavs and the Knicks play because although there was just some terrible basketball, it was always fun. It was always fun. And game 1 in particular was so much fun. Watching Jim Butler just do his thing again. Watching Brunson just be so fucking good.
Yeah.
Brunson is like a max player.
Yeah.
And the Mavs were hand-wringing about giving him 25.
Yeah, and like they decided to get Kyrie Irving and he might leave instead.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not even fucking entertaining going down that rabbit hole.
Brunson's so good.
I find this matchup so compelling because the pieces are all like mismatched. Randall misses game 1, comes back and plays pretty well in game 2, giving them some good offense. RJ Barrett puts up the absolute worst 26 points on 8 of 16 shooting I've ever seen.
Yeah, but he was the first guy under the age of X to do something in his second playoff series or something.
He just never makes playing well look worse. And that's when he's actually playing well, which is rare enough. But the Knicks trying to cobble together like workable offense with Randall kind of limited or unavailable, their best player being this diminutive point guard who's just shooting so well and like getting to the rim, and then just like a collection of defensive role players is really interesting. And then whatever the fuck is going on for the Heat with or without Jim Butler, who missed game 2, but Marco messaged in the GC at one point during game 2. And the Heat had 4 undrafted guys out there. Yeah. And the rotation was 4 undrafted guys, Lowry and Love. And it's like, Love is...
Well, and Cody Zeller.
And Cody Zeller, like, literally off the street. Yeah. Love is off the street. Lowry has not been a capital G good basketball player for like 3 years.
Yeah. And
the reason why this team made it to the second round is because Jimmy Butler went supernova. And here they are just taking it to the Knicks until the dying seconds of the game.
They almost stole game 2.
Yeah. I mean, this is one where they're going back to Miami 1-1 and they have to feel good with Jimmy Butler coming back.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have the horses to win this series. But I've got a feeling that this is going 7.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling this is going to just be an absolute war of attrition and it's just going to be like fun playoff basketball.
It's a war of attrition and you're not going with Jimmy Butler, which is like pretty bold. But it's just... I don't know how the fuck they came close to winning game 2. Like,
seriously,
you look at the box score and it doesn't even make sense how they came close to winning. Like Kevin Love's fouling out every single time he gets on the court, and like,
because he just can't defend.
Yeah, and like behind him is Cody Zeller.
If you dribble against Kevin Love, he's just like, oh fuck, I'm in the wrong place.
We all watched Bam Adebayo just completely like shat his stacks couple or maybe last playoffs. Like Bam Adebayo
on the reg, Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to. Again, I've said 2 cringe things now, but he doesn't want to be that guy.
Yeah,
that's fine. That's who he is. Kyle Lowry might not be as good as Gabe Vincent. Gabe Vincent might not be as good as Kyle Lowry. Like we just
depends on which version of Gabe Vincent rocks up.
Yeah, and like there's no Oladipo who's a wild card who could he had a good playoffs last season, which a bit sad for Oladipo. Like he's out for 12 months.
That bloke must have done everything in the knee. And then at one time or another.
Yeah.
ACL, meniscus,
whatever this was.
Tendon. Yeah. Jeez.
Is it all
throw
the same?
Throw an M and a P in there and you've got the fucking Holy Trinity.
Is this a bit of Sean Livingston, eh? Look, you say it's just going to be a bloodbath, and like Tibbs is just making it very difficult. Like the Knicks are making it difficult. Also, I thought Randall was going to do so much more. He's going to go up against Cody Martin, and then like the Azella and K Love. Like this should be the series where Randall's averaging 30, and it's like scares the next team.
Like Randall coming back from an injury that kept him out for games.
Yeah,
who can say who can say how that's affecting him? But you probably can say. Players in the playoffs are coming back sooner from injury than they would if it was the regular season.
Yeah.
A 4-game injury becomes a 2-game injury because your team needs you.
Yeah.
So that could be playing into it. But Randall, like Bam and like Davis, who we talked about at the top of this episode, has that in him to just throw up a stinker, and Randall will just shoot 6 threes in the first quarter and then just keep shooting them. And it's like, brother, you're a tank who can dribble the ball. Get to the rim.
Yeah.
Just get there. But he doesn't always.
Knicks conference finalists is an interesting one. Would this be a little bit like the Hawks a couple of years ago? And hopefully they can learn from the Hawks and like still continue to upgrade the roster and not say, no, we've got Rowan and we've got Grimes.
Would you... Well, to answer that question, how do you think... Let's just assume that Boston makes it through to the conference finals. Save this episode. I'm not predicting it. I'm just saying that that feels more likely at this point.
Yeah.
Knicks versus Boston.
Yeah.
Do the Knicks have any chance of winning that series?
No.
Well, then you're not at that level where you can hang that banner and say, like, conference finalists, we're one of the league's elite teams. If you are the 5 seed and you make it to the conference finals and you feel like we took this elite team that made the finals last year to 7 games and we narrowly lost, then you can say, like, the construction of this team is suited for sustainable success. But if it's, you know, like, it's, I know the Hawks were that year they went to 6 in the conference finals and were feeling really good.
Yeah.
But it was like a weird 6. Like,
it was a Mike Budenholzer 6.
No one was kind of saying, like, oh man, was it against the Bucks?
Yeah, yeah.
No one was saying, like, oh man, like, the Hawks really pushed the Bucks there. It was like, oh, like, the Bucks got it done in 6.
Yeah, yeah.
It was the skew of that series was different. And if the skew of a potential Knicks conference final series is like that, they just look like they're not supposed to be there, then you still have to say, like, we are pieces away.
Which is, you hope that they're thinking that because they've got the pieces to move. Like, they've got all those picks, fake or real, that they can move, and they're in the conversation to get Donovan Mitchell. But yeah, pretty. I mean, regardless, good base for the Knicks to build upon.
Awesome base, and this is kind of what. This is where a team like Chicago has wanted to be.
Yeah.
Because it is, you know, and this is something that I've kind of said often in the history of this show, that it's easier to get great from good than it is from bad.
Yeah.
And you're in this situation where you got a whole bunch of interesting role players. You got a star in Julius Randle, who is an interesting piece to build around or to move. You've got a guy like RJ Rowan, who is so limited, but
you hope that the team receiving him likes him more.
Well, likes him more, but also maybe a good team just decides, actually, we need him to be limited. Maybe Memphis is like, we've been looking for this superstar wing. Why don't we just get this guy who's a lock-up defender and who is gonna be just good enough offensively? RJ's an interesting one. They've got the role players, they've got the picks. Like, they can shuffle the roster, they can swing and go all in. They're still in New York, free agency. Like, there's options on the table, and you are going to feel so galvanized if you're the Knicks, regardless of what happens. Unless Miami runs the table and wins in 5, in which case you'll be like, wow, we have real things to think about.
Yeah.
But assuming that this is a long series, 6 or 7 in the second round against Miami, even if they lose and they lose to the 8 seed, you are going to feel so fucking galvanized going into next season and thinking about what this team can be beyond.
Pretty interesting.
We have said it before, and I'll say it again. This is a great time to be a basketball fan.
It's a fucking great time to be a basketball fan.
There's nothing better than just like getting on the couch and being like, oh, I'm going to watch like an awesome game of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, the Denver Phoenix series is just so interesting. Did you want to wrap up with some other series, or do you just want to laugh at Dillon Brooks for a minute?
Oh, can we laugh at Dillon Brooks?
Yeah, of course. So Dillon Brooks. So he got.
Someone back out the clown car noise. Niece Kylie, put in the fucking clown car.
I'll start it off by saying Dillon Brooks has been fined $25,000 for not appearing. For not being available to the media for the last 2 or 3 games of that Lakers series. He obviously talked a lot of shit, and then
he should be in prison for how much shit he talked and then just disappearing.
Shit talking, punching balls, and then just not going. I was worried. I probably said like 20 episodes ago. Fuck, it's looking like the Grizzlies are going to use their cap space on just re-signing Dillon Brooks and saying, yeah, he's our small forward of the future. But I will say one thing that Dan Feldman pointed out, where it's like Dillon Brooks is a wing. He's supposed to be a good 3-and-D wing, but he just hasn't been able to defend or shoot threes. But like when he was good and when he became a rotation player, it's because he was a good 3-and-D wing. And maybe he's a 3-and-D 2, not a 3, but whatever. For the Grizzlies front office to have this asset bloom, for them to move on from D'Anthony Melton, who might be like the ideal fit there right now, for them to move on from him and say, okay, Dillon Brooks is our guy, to have all this stuff go on behind the scenes, both from Ja Morant and the gun stuff, but then just from Dillon Brooks talking shit just so much that he's just made an enemy out of himself from just every fan ever. Like even Grizzlies fans you see on Twitter are like, yeah, no, this dude does suck.
Hard to root for.
For them to fumble the asset so much where maybe they can make it into a sign and trade, but they're just going to lose a young 3-and-D wing for absolutely nothing. And he might not be good, but...
Well, the thing, though, with that, this is not motivated by the on-court stuff.
Yeah. 100%.
We can see that it would be really fucking difficult to be his teammate and watch him go and talk out all sorts of shit and then dip from the media and any sort of accountability when you got blown out on your home court by 40 points. It would be really difficult for you to be like, oh, well, fucking like Dillon, I guess we're riding with him, but who knows what's going on behind the scenes. If he's a fucking dickhead where we can see it, you can infer that he's a dickhead like where you can't see it.
Yeah. It's just whoever's the next 3-and-D wing in there, whether it's Mikal Bridges or OG Anunoby, or if it's like one of the good 3-and-D wings, or whether it's just like
Rowan Barrett.
Yeah, Rowan Barrett. Let's not call him good.
Fuck. OG would just be so good there.
Yeah, but let's just say it's a bad OG, right? Like they're going to be so much better.
Yeah,
because that dude's going to take 7 shots a game.
It's pretty unprecedented that literally as soon as the series is over,
they said we're not re-signing
media report saying under no circumstance will you be returned.
Well, the Shams had one today where it's like there is still some interest. I think that was the wording. There is still some interest in.
He'll get 12 mil from someone.
Well, so I wrote an article for pipmandaneasy.com suggesting a sign and trade for Lonzo Ball. And then Memphis...
That's a fucked up sentence.
Memphis can move Lonzo Ball's salary, which fits perfectly to OG Anunoby's salary. And if Chicago are going to give up a pick to give away this massive salary and, it's inverted commas... bring in a good player. So in a sign and trade, they get the good player and they dump another $40 million of Lonzo Ball, give up a future first round pick from Chicago. You can even protect it if you want. Then all of a sudden Memphis have a salary that swaps perfectly for OG Anunoby. They give up every pick they have plus one more Chicago pick. Let's just say it's 5 first round picks for OG, which I don't think it would be because he's only got 1 year remaining.
Well, with that amount of capital, you could even talk about Siakam if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Siakam's not off the table. And that would be an interesting inflection point for what kind of team you want to be.
Yeah.
Do you bring in the archetypal 3-and-D role player who's got like a bit of scoring sizzle, or
Triple J at the 5?
Triple J at the 5.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's interesting.
Yeah. So I quite liked it. And then because Chicago, like, how the fuck else are you improving? Like, it doesn't look like Lonzo Ball play basketball again. From Toronto's point of view, they can play that game with Lonzo and say, okay, we're going to waive you for medical reasons, and they might just get $20 million in free salary.
Well, if they're thinking about trading
everyone
anyway, they don't even have to waive him. They can just literally just let him sit there.
Yeah, but this wouldn't be waiving. Well, I mean, it would be, but it would be different to waiving because you wouldn't have to eat it.
You would get that.
You would gain $20 million, and for a rebuilding.
But
team.
I mean, like the other for whichever team ends up with Lonzo, Because it's safe to assume, I think, that he will be moved from the Bulls.
Yeah. Oh.
I think so.
Okay, I don't.
I think so. Well, I mean, you're the one that's running for people in the league, so I should defer to you.
Once a month.
Whoever, even if it's the Bulls, you can just leave him and know that if he comes back and plays 10 good games after he's fully healthy and looks like Lonzo, then you've got a good trade asset. Even before he's come back, a team that needs a good backup point guard knows that he is going to be healthy for the season. Like, you could get, assets. You could get, like, a role player who better suits your needs, or a couple of seconds or whatever. You could cut bait on him and just have the free space. But, like, he will be a movable asset because everyone knows what he's like when he's healthy, and that's if you want to play a quick hitting, fast paced style with a good point of attack defender, like he's your guy.
But back to Dillon Brooks, wherever he goes, I'm going to dislike it, even if it's for the minimum.
He's just a
prick,
piece of shit. Yeah, I've never seen someone unite the clans against himself quite like everyone has stands. Everyone has the people that are like, oh man, like you hate to play against him, but like fire out, you'd love to be on his team. Dillon Brooks has just alienated from the media and the fan base, from NBA fans in general, and it appears his own team. Alienated every corner of support that he could fall back on.
Him and Grayson Allen.
Yeah.
They're just sitting on an island together.
Well, I mean, Grayson Allen even less so.
He's just
shit. He is, but like in a different way. Dillon Brooks is like I'm gonna acknowledge that I'm leaning into hot take territory here, like Skip and Stephen A territory. But it's cowardly for Dillon Brooks to be like, I'm gonna talk all this shit. I'm gonna get in the face of the greatest player that has played the game. Gonna get in his face. I'm gonna talk to the media and talk shit about him, and then as soon as something doesn't go my way, I'm out here. I'm dipping. You can't get a hold of me. Like that's cowardly. That's really, really cowardly.
Yeah.
And if his behavior on the court and to the media is indicative in any way of his personal character, it makes complete sense that this is why Memphis is taking the unprecedented step of telling media days after they were eliminated from the playoffs that this guy's not going to be back.
Yeah. And on that low but also good for us note, we're going to wrap up episode 195 of the Deep 2 NBA podcast.
Let's bloody wrap this puppy.
Actually, no, we won't. Sorry, Lukey's got an article on deep2.com.
5
storylines to follow.
There's no way this bloke has been running articles from Sophia. But he has.
And he will continue to, and he wants to.
He's killing it.
He's also writing for Fansided. You can check him out at LKP_bball. He's got a professional Twitter account.
Is there like a .com? Oh, that's his Twitter.
His Twitter. Where you can find all of his content.
Better make a Twitter and give him a follow.
You've got one, the Deep 2 NBA. Check that out on the deep2.com.
Yeah. 5 storylines to follow for the upcoming WNBA season. I interrupted you to dox him and tell everyone where he is. But yes, you can see that on the deep2.com, as well as lots of other timeless pieces of long form basketball writing. So
and timed if you just want to support us.
Yeah, well, just jump in there and give a couple of clicks. Click around. Click on some different articles and subheadings.
Open up tabs. Yeah. Leave them open for 5 minutes. Yeah. I check that.
Yeah, come on. Throw us a bone.
Dante, I'll speak to you next week. We were over the moon when we first heard that the NBA was going to be televised on Australian free-to-air TV in the 2019-20 season. It didn't exactly go swimmingly, with the nasty cough halting the season and games getting cancelled left, right and centre, but it was a huge step and an exciting one for basketball fans all across the country.
Better yet, it wasn't a commercial channel cashing in on some basketball nerds like us. It was SBS, one of our public broadcasters. Unfortunately, the NBA wasn't the only thing SBS was pushing last season. They also ran advertisements from Sportsbet, Ladbrokes, Bet365, BetEasy, and Neds, some of the biggest sports betting companies in Australia.
In a one step forwards, two steps backwards move, SBS has dropped the ball here. As a public broadcaster, SBS plays a key role in providing relevant, culturally appropriate health information to local communities. The last thing SBS should be doing is offering a platform for gambling companies during the most financially unstable time in recent memory.
This past year, men aged 18 to 24 made up 79% of new gambling account holders, with increased median spending and frequency of bets. This is the last thing we should be spending our money on given the financial uncertainty that comes with the pandemic. During COVID lockdowns, wagering companies spent more money on advertising and incentives to gamble, and it worked. SBS needs to hear from viewers that gambling ad revenue isn't worth the harm it causes. Call on the SBS chair, George Savitas, to put community health ahead of gambling revenue by signing the petition at www.endgamblingads.org.au/get gambling off SBS with hyphens in between.